from Waverly, Missouri. I currently live in Lee Summit. Just a couple of things about me. My parents are Brooke and Joe Michael, and my grandparents are Harriet and Richard Summers and Pat and Evan Michael. You probably know. And I graduated from Lee Summit West High School in 2023, and now I'm a freshman at Metropolitan Community College on my A+ scholarship, but planning on transferring to University of Michigan next year. Last year had the great opportunity to be Miss Missouri Strong 2023. I got to go to nationals. It was a great experience. And now I am having another great experience of interning in DC this summer with Josh Hawley. I'm here because of Turning Point USA, but a lot of people might not know what that organization is. Basically, it's just a youth organization for young conservatives to bring back conservative values on high school and college campuses. Just a few pictures. That's me with Charlie Kirk. He's the founder of Turning Point USA 11 years ago. He founded it at 18 years old, and now it is the biggest youth organization for conservatives in America. And then that's me with his wife, Erica Trump, and then me with Josh Hawley, 2 years before I knew I would even get to work with him. And then that's Eric Schmidt, our other senator, and then that's me at Mar-a-Lago accepting a Campus Warrior Award the same year that I started working with Turning Point. So just a little bit about my story. It started when I was a freshman in high school when COVID hit. So a lot of us know that COVID made a big impact on our country, because when I first started out in high school, I was friends with everybody. It was pretty normal life. I was in sports and loved my classes and my teachers. But then when COVID happened and BLM and the riots, everyone had to make a decision right then and there if they were going to conform with the mob or be silent or stand up for what they actually believed in. I decided, being raised in a Christian and conservative household, that I wasn't going to conform with the mob and mainstream media, and decided to be very active in what I truly believed in. That was met with a lot of backlash from my class. I lost a lot of friends, got a lot of hate, and if you take a step into the shoes of a 15-year-old girl being told to kill herself, that she shouldn't believe what she should believe in, that she should be hurt, those kind of things were not a great experience for me at the time. Had many nights crying in my mom's bedroom, but today I have a lot thicker skin now, thankfully, but I've been having to deal with this kind of reaction to what I believe in for quite a long time now. Then I decided to take more of a proactive role within my school because of what I believed in. And so my parents, I'm very grateful for them. My junior year of high school drove me all the way to St. Louis just to watch Charlie Kirk speak at an event. I got to ask him a question, which was, I'm getting all this hate, I'm being called all these names because I believe in conservative values, and I don't conform with what people are saying now because that's just going to hurt our country even more. And I asked Charlie personally, what should I do? And he told me to start a chapter at my school, because there are probably other people that believe what I believe, but feel silenced and that they can't speak up about it. So that's what I did. I grabbed a couple of friends that believed the same things that I did, had the same convictions as me, and we went to go start a club at our school. Now, Lee Summit West, if you don't know, is a pretty big school. There's around 2,000 kids, so there's a lot of clubs. So there's a process that you have to go through. We did all of the necessary steps that it takes to start a club at a high school in Lee Summit. One of the steps is to go to your activities director, and our activities director at the time told us that we weren't allowed to start it because it was affiliated with a national organization, which just isn't true at all, because so many of our clubs were affiliated with national organizations at the time. So we had to contact Turning Point USA directly. They helped us work through that, and then the last step that it took to start the club was to have one meeting. So if you just had one meeting, then you were in with the list of clubs at your school. So I had to have a teacher sponsor, and I actually had 3, just a couple of backups, teachers that believed in what I believed, went to my church, were conservative, and wanted to help me start the club. The day of the meeting, I spent my own money to get snacks. I had put up posters days before, even though they were tore down. I put up a banner. I was getting prepared for the meeting, and right when the school bell rang, my first sponsor teacher told me he wasn't able to do it, that he heard too many students complain about it, that they were upset about the club starting, and that he didn't want to cause any disruptions in his classroom. So I said, okay, that's not great, but I have 2 other teachers. And then within the 3 hours before my meeting started, all of my teachers had dropped out. They said they were scared for their jobs and that they didn't want to be controversial within their classrooms or in the school. So I had no teachers, and my principal told me that I couldn't do the meeting because I didn't have a teacher to support. So I was running around that 2,000 student school looking for anybody that would just sit in my classroom while I gave the presentation. Minutes before, I had one teacher who was her first year at school, so she didn't know what was going on yet, and I convinced her to come sit in the room. There was so many people in the courtyard just wanting to protest this event. I knew there was some backlash and people that were going to be very happy about it, but I wasn't really sure about the extremity of that, what was happening. Most people just wanted to see something go down, I guess. But anyways, I had a lot of people come into the room that I was in to listen to me speak and mainly just yell at me, but there's only a 90-person capacity of the room, and I barely got into my own meeting. My sister couldn't come in, friends couldn't come in because of all the protesters. And then Charlie Kirk ended up posting a video of what happened after that day. My helper's helping me. I don't know if you can hear it. That's basically me giving the presentation in this room and just kind of explaining the group. That was all the meeting was about, was me explaining what Turning Point is, why we're there. This was at the end of the school year, so I didn't think it would be a big deal. And I just wanted to get one meeting in before the next school year so I could actually get this started. I just had to explain just super basic values of Turning Point USA. You can't hear it, but people are screaming there. It sounds like people are, hooting and hollering, just yelling at me. I could barely get out a few words. I don't know if you can turn it up at all. You didn't unmute it. Okay. Anyways, so I get done with my presentation. The vice president just turned it, and then a table gets thrown at me. A glass table right there. You can see all the glass on the floor. Anyways, my friends were trying to help me because I was emotional and upset. It was a long day, and there's a door being blocked by a table. Somebody pushed the door open. It was a big guy. He shoved the table over, and glass flew all in front of me and hit one of my friends. So that story went kind of viral, but it was kind of an end cap to what I'd already been feeling, which was just constant hate, constant division, constant controversy, that I was just this terrible person in my entire high school. And so even with all of that happening, I got a lot of good that came from it. God really used that event and changed my future. So first, like I said earlier, I got the Campus Warrior Award at Mar-a-Lago. I got to meet President Trump. I got to meet Johnny Root and a ton of different people, and it was just an amazing experience. I didn't think that within 6 months of me going through that event would lead to me at Mar-a-Lago. And then I got the Breckenridge Scholarship Award. I got it presented to me at the state capitol. And then I also got a job with Turning Point USA. Even though I couldn't start a chapter, but they'll hire me anyways. Anyways, so I worked with their National Field Program, which is the program for helping students in high schools and colleges get their chapters started. So even though I couldn't start one at my high school, I got one started at Lee Summit High School, Blue Springs South High School, and Liberty High School. So now that I'm out of high school, I have a pretty good understanding of what the climate is like in high school and now in college that is so different than 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. talking to my parents, talking to my brother who graduated in 2019, nobody talked about politics. It wasn't a thing. People barely even knew who the president was at the time. It didn't affect their day-to-day life. But like I said, once COVID hit, whether you were Democrat or Republican, it really mattered. It mattered your friend group, it mattered what teachers liked you, it mattered how you wrote papers for school. It still does as I'm in college. It matters because it's your entire life now in your school, and it affects your education, it affects the school board, it affects how teachers treat you, and it's basically these three things that I can point out is how the climate is now that I don't think a lot of people understand, especially me because I've been being in smaller schools and in bigger schools. It's just a completely different world. First is cancel culture. So already as a 15-year-old, you want to be accepted, you want to have friends, you want to be liked, but then going through figuring out what you believe in versus what other people are telling you to believe in is going to impact your friend groups, it's going to impact how you perceive what your parents have told you. I have had so many parents come up to me and tell me, well, I sent my kids to college and they were Christian and conservative, but they came back thinking that they're the other gender and that they believe in Marxism. Like, what happened? And it's the colleges, it's the high schools, it's the climate that we are now trying to be educated in, but instead of education, we're getting indoctrinated. And so people are already feeling pressure. After I had my meeting, even though so many bad things happened that day, I had students come up to me either in the hallways, over social media. Some people try to get my phone number from my friends just to tell me how much they love that I stood up because they don't feel like they can. They say that I'm in a friend group of people that have completely different beliefs than me, and I am scared that if I say one wrong thing, then I'm out of the group. And that's what happened to me. And I had like I said, went to a very large school and was friends with my entire class. And by the time I graduated, everyone that I went to prom with didn't go to my school because I wasn't friends with any of them. And then values are not being passed down anymore. Like I said, with parents, they have the completely different values now than their children, and it's because I don't think that they're being properly passed down because of our culture. So our culture is now telling our students, don't listen to your parents, don't listen to your grandparents, they don't know what they're talking about. They're old boomer bigots, they don't know what the new wokeness, they're not awake, right? That's their whole thing, is that they're woke and we're not. But now I'm 19, I should be woke because I'm in this generation. I'm not a boomer, I'm not Gen X, I'm not a millennial. I should be awake to the nonsense that they're talking about, but I'm not. I'm awake in the fact that I'm not feeding into their delusions, right? And so that's another part of the high school experience. And the last part I would say that has a pretty big impact on students' day-to-day life is social media. Now, social media, it just is spreading constant misinformation. It's creating anxiety and isolation. So when students when students are being told things by their parents, but they see the complete opposite on social media, they have no idea what to believe. They said, my parents say this, and my church says this, but this post got 2 million likes, so obviously this has more credibility than my parents do. Even though my parents have experience and gone through things in their lives that have led them to have these convictions, these social media influencers are telling me something the complete opposite. Or these people that have their degrees in gender studies, they know what they're talking about, right? And so the use of social media by high schoolers and college students has a dramatic impact in their convictions afterwards. Now, like I said with social media, we're being constantly bombarded with information, right? But according to research, what percent of students do you think actually can comprehend and critically analyze all the information that they're getting? Like 50%? What? Like 10%, 20, 30, 40? You would think some can, right? Yeah, only 2%. Only 2% of our children and teens can critically analyze and comprehend the information that they're getting on a daily basis. They just see a title, they see a TikTok, and they take it as truth, right? People will say, like, well, I've read an article. No, you didn't. You watched a 30-second TikTok. and now you feel like you know everything, because that's our culture now, is just constant scrolling and constantly being bombarded with information, and only 2% of our entire teenagers, children that are constantly on social media can research, can go and find the truth out of what they're seeing. And being only 2%, it wouldn't be good that only, sorry, if you can flip to the next slide, actually, sorry. So this leads to our depression and anxiety that our children are having. And the cause from 31% and 14% of our children, not even millennials, but Gen Z and Gen Alpha, are experiencing anxiety and depression, but they're spending 3+ hours on social media. You know, studies have shown that spending 3+ hours on social media leads to more anxiety and depression. It's double the amount that they would get if they weren't on it. But then 13-year-olds are spending 4.1 hours, and up to 18-year-olds are spending 5.8 hours on social media. While they are spending 6 hours on social media, but only 2% of them can understand what they're seeing. So that is going to lead to misinformation, isolation, anxiety, depression. And so they are saying that they know everything and that they understand because they have the internet, they have Google, they have social media. But why are we the most anxious and depressed generation if we should know everything? If we're constantly getting, medical advice and mental health awareness, but we're more anxious and depressed as a generation. Now there is hope. I promise there is. And so just some practical steps that you can do with your Gen Z daughter, with your Gen Alpha granddaughter. These generations don't feel like they're being heard by the older generations. So my parents, my grandparents, we've sat down and had conversations of why we believe what we believe, but that's not happening everywhere. So students I've talked to and interviewed and done research has said that they don't feel like they have a voice when it comes to what they believe in. A lot of times they'll get, no, I know better, I'm older, no, you're wrong, I'm right. And so just a practical conversation you can have is to start with asking questions. So let's say your child has come to you about, LGBTQ community, and they're saying, well, I believe that we should support them because they've gone through so much. Well, why do you feel like that? What have you seen? What article did you read? What makes you feel and have these values? And then whatever article they give you or whatever research they've shown you, go away, go research it, find the truth out of it, because that's what you would want them to do for you. You would want, if you gave them an article, you would want them to do the same thing, is to figure out the truth behind it and not just accept it as truth or as factual. And then come back and listen to them, and to practice what you preach is what I just said, is to go back, research, look at their articles, look at what they believe in and why they say they believe in, and just sit down and have an honest conversation. Like, listen, I know you believe this, but this is actually what I have found. This is what I've experienced in my life. Because you are older, and you think you know better, but it's taking the pride out of it and doing the actual research that it takes that made you come to those conclusions is what they're going to appreciate. That it's going to hopefully maybe open their eyes just a little bit at a time, and just being patient with them, because they are being bombarded with so much information constantly from their friends, from social media, from their peers. So when it comes from you too, and it's different than what they hear all day long in school and on social media, they're not going to want to take it as facts immediately. It's going to be a constant conversation you're going to want to have, but if you sit and listen to them and empower them, making them feel like they have a voice, then you're going to make a much more practical impact than if you just said, no, you're wrong. The last thing I would say is to donate, volunteer, encourage, and vote. So donating to organizations like Turning Point USA will help students like me have resources to start chapters and to go on trips. That I went to so many different conferences, and I wouldn't have had that opportunity if people didn't donate to Turning Point, because they paid for our hotels, for our events, for our food. Some people got flights paid for because of people that donated. Volunteering in your local local communities, whether that's at the school, because I mean, even being a lunch lady and speaking truth into a student can make a huge impact that you don't even know. Volunteering at local elections, people need people there all the time. And then, like we said, there's so many people even here tonight that we need to vote for, because if we don't put people in local elections, nothing is going to change. Where I'm from in Lisa, Missouri, we just had a school board election, and we're getting closer and closer to getting more conservatives on our board, which will make a huge impact. What? Yeah, for the majority. We're trying to get slowly more of the majority of our school board, because we didn't have that when I was in high school, and that would have made such a bigger impact than if, for my Turning Point chapter, than the board that we had when I was in high school. And then lastly, I was going to talk about encouraging these students that are conservative. The students that are making a difference, you might not think that just because you're 20 years older than me that I'm not going to appreciate that you're telling me thank you. Like at the event that I went to for Charlie Kirk, I had an old man tackle me with a hug because I was talking about how I was standing up for what I believed in. I and other conservative students need people encouraging us. We need people telling us that they appreciate that what we're doing, and that are coming out to meetings like this, that are donating to the boards, and to even if as small as you may feel that you are, you're making a huge difference in our lives. And then another few action items I have, and maybe a little bit too much I wrote up there, but it's pretty much what I've already been saying, which is engage in dialogue with these students, participating in mentorship programs, whether that's within the schools or in churches, promoting media literacy and education, like to help the 2% to get higher, that people know how to read and research. Like, I love to research, but I don't know anybody else my age that researches what they see on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter. Leading by example, so like I said, practice what you preach, and having integrity is what people are going to take as credibility. And then supporting community initiatives like this, and empowering the youth people, or the young people, because they need it. And then lastly, I just wanted to bring up an organization. If you're interested at all, you can take a picture and contact Linda. She is from Colorado. She has an organization called Grandparents for Kids. She feels as though parents are too busy with their jobs or raising the kids, that they don't, and like sports and so much going on in their lives, that they don't have enough time to speak into them, to speak the truth into them. So they're being pretty much led, taught, and growing up in the education system, which is just indoctrinating them. And so she is very passionate about being a grandparent. And so if you cared at all, if you wanted to, she's trying to go national. She's in Colorado, has a few groups started already there. And I said I would share her stuff. Thank you.